Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode, Walk With Me. Today, I'm so happy to talk with Neda Emami. She's a founder and investor and someone who cares about making the world better and more fair. Neda, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to talk with you. Can you
Hi,
introduce
Amr.
yourself,
Thanks.
please? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you, and hopefully, our talk and conversation become helpful for whoever listens to this podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. Before we dive into your journey as a founder and investor, I want to start by going back a little bit. I remember when I was a kid, I used to ask many questions and how things work, like airplanes or why the sky is blue. I need to know what about you, Neda, when you were a child, what made you curious about the world? Was it things like science, I don't know, people, or something else?
That's a very fun question. I think it was science, mostly the first thing. I remember since I was a kid, my idea in my head was like, I want to cure cancer one day. And I had no idea how, but it was just like maybe a goal in my head is like, oh, that would be really cool if I could cure cancer. When I grow up, I want to do that. And nature definitely was always been part of my life. I grew up in a house with a big yard and we had a lot of trees. So like picking fruits and being part of nature has always been part of my life. But I think I was always fascinated by science first and how things work and how we can, use science to make life better. And then when I was a little older, before I having my concours, the university exam, I always wanted to study biomedical engineering, and I was dreaming like I want to build an artificial leg or an artificial arm. So I always wanted to, build something, innovate something, and I had no idea how to, but it was just always in my head.
In your head. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much. I want to ask you a question about immigrant family. So for me, being part of immigrant family in the US taught me a lot about working hard, and specific in the United States, staying strong, finding creative ways to solve a problem. Growing up in a new country, wasn't always easy, but it's pushed me to learn, adapt, and think differently. Did your family or background play a big role too? Like, what part of your life helped you become a strong and a creative leader? Was it like your partner, parents, families, friends, or school, or something you went through?
Well, first of all, thanks for calling me a strong leader. I'm still
Thank you.
working towards
Of
become
course.
one. But I think so I migrated by myself. So my family, they're all back in Iran. But I think growing up in a big family have helped me to navigate my way through things. Even though I have like five sisters and one brother, we have a really big family. But I grew up almost only with my brother because when I was growing up, all my sisters were like either married or studying in another city. So I always had to figure out like how to do things by myself, and asking my brother wasn't the easiest solution for me. So I think that environment have helped me to just like come up with solutions, and I've always been like, oh, there is this problem, there is a solution for it. I've always never been like, oh, what do I do now? Like in my head, every problem has a solution, and I think that helped me to just look at everything as like a challenge and not a problem, and I love challenges. So,
What challenge did you solve so far
as a kid, you mean, or
as a kid when you
I
were
mean, when it was coming to my homework or there was something that was
or math?
broken, I had to figure a way to fix it. I would ask my brother once, and if he would explain it to me like the first time and I wouldn't get it, he wouldn't explain it the second time. So I had to figure it my like own, which again made me to just like try to ask, I don't know, maybe other people or figure my way out to, solve that.
Right? That sounds perfect. I think you work for 10 years in biomedical field, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, was it one big things you learned during that time?
There were so many things. There wasn't
Give me
just
one
one.
example.
Um, Well, I think working in one field for that amount of time can give you kind of like the idea of like what kind of person you are. I loved my job. I loved what I was doing, but at some point I was like, there's no more room for me to grow. And I learned that maybe this is not something that I want to pursue for the rest of my life. Because again, I kind of got to know myself. Like I'm a person that I want to make decisions by myself, or I want my decisions to be considered strongly when there is a decision has to be made. So I kind of like, I think the biggest lesson that I learned was like, who am I and what I want to do with my life. I think that was the biggest lesson that I got. I mean, again, I love working in that field. It taught me so many other lessons, but the biggest lesson probably would be this one.
Yeah, perfect. I love when someone creates something that comes from their own story, like you. It usually means the mission is real and it comes from something person. Let me ask you a question about your startup, your idea. I think SAC or SIC. Uh,
Like, yeah.
SAC, yeah. In Persian, we call SAC also.
Yeah.
Where did the idea for SAC come from? Or was there a personal story behind it? Or did you see any issue?
Mhm.
And are you trying to solve the issue?
Sure. So SAAG, the name, yeah, we do have the same thing in Farsi. The SAAG comes from share, adventure, and gear, and the whole idea of the company comes uh, from these words. So it comes from a personal pain point. During COVID, I started doing backpacking, and I realized I love spending time in nature, but I don't have the gear to do so. And everything is very expensive. When you want to do something like camping or backpacking, you have to buy the equipment, which is like a tent, a sleeping bag, a sleeping pad. So there's so many equipments that you have to buy. And if you want to buy all of them, you have to pay at least $1,000, if not more. And for people who haven't done this in their lives, like spending that much money on one activity is too much. And I was like, okay, what if I could rent all this equipment from someone who probably is living next door to me? And I was like, curious to see if there is any platform doing that. Whatever that I was finding was local old school shops that they rent gear, and that was not something that I wanted to use. So I started building the platform, and the idea of decentralizing access to nature and adventure was the whole idea of starting this, because spending time in nature doing backpacking literally changed my life, changed my perspective about life. It made life so much more fluid and easier to understand, because when you spend time in nature, you realize how small and little you are, and your problems are so small and little as well. And I really wanted everybody else to be able to experience that. So, yeah, we started building the problem definitely from a personal pain
When did you
point.
start it?
So, the idea was initiated during COVID, and then we started working full time almost 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I think when people boil from experience, their experience, it really shows in their work. I have seen so many Berlin women face barriers that others never seen notice. I think it's important we talk about this openly. What was it like for you as a women founder? What challenge did you face, and how
Mhm.
did you deal with them or stay strong?
That's a great question. So many, so many challenges. I think stepping into the entrepreneurial world as a woman is, I can say, 100 times harder than a man.
Right.
And I say this based on experience. The reason is I feel like it's getting better by us talking about it more openly, but I feel like women founders they're not getting, they don't, people don't take them seriously at first. And it's a little painful because you have to prove that this business has already been working and you have revenue and all that stuff, and then they might listen to you. So this is the challenge that I've faced because I was seeing people like guys with idea could raise money or with no traction could raise money. Especially again in the fundraising journey, I think it's more challenging. You will receive way more no. That's one of the challenges.
Right.
And you just have to be okay with it. You just have to be like, this is part of the journey. Um, and I don't want to like victimize women in the business, but I think we have to openly talk about this issue that you brought up that like there's so much more challenges for women. And they get burnt out sooner, I think, because there is no official support system for them. And I think one of the best thing to do, I would highly recommend this for anyone who wants to start a startup. Start building your support system. Either as a friend, a group of friends, a group of other founders, just people who understand you and your pain point and are willing to help you.
Thank you for sharing that. I know facing those challenges must have taken a lot of strength, and I imagine there were moments that felt really tough. When things get hard, what helps you keep going?
Sleep.
Just live, or you
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
walk or talk. Like for me, so when everything gets hard for me, I walk. I walk like because I'm a student at UC San Diego. I walk
mhm,
like close to the beach.
mhm.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I do walk too. I mean, when things get hard, I used to push harder and would be like, oh, I just can do this. But then, life teach you lessons. And now I'm like, okay, if it's not happening right now, it will happen later on. So I just take it easy. Maybe I slow down. Maybe I go for a walk. Maybe I sleep. And then I always feel so much better the day after. So whenever you feel like bad or down, always remember the next day you will feel so much better. And that's how I can keep going, thinking about tomorrow.
Tomorrow. That's really powerful. I think everyone needs to hear that because sometimes we all go through tough moments and it helps to know what keeps others going. You help new founders, I think, as an angel investor. What's one common mistake they make,
Mhm.
and what advice would you give them? They
Yes.
made.
So to make it clarify, I work with a group of angel investors. Angel investor, like I'm not an angel investor myself because in order to be an angel investor, you have to be like credited, you have to have a certain net worth, and you have to write your own checks. I am not doing that yet, but what we do is I'm part of a group of angel investors called Bay Angels, and they're the second oldest network of angel investors in Silicon Valley,
Wow.
and they've invested in like Dropbox or really big companies throughout the last 27 years. So what we do is we have a website, startups go and apply, and we have one pitch nights every month that they can pitch. One month it's in-person events, and the second month it's an online pitch event. And what we do is we go over all the applications. We, let's say, select seven, and then we have a pitch preview, and then startups come and pitch for us. And then after they done pitching, we start talking about how each pitch was. And we select four of them, and then they have the opportunity to pitch in front of a group of angel investors that they actively write checks. And it's such a great experience for me because I really want to become an angel investor very soon. And I'm just like learning to understand how the whole system works because people think angel investing is just like, oh, this idea is really cool. I really want to be part of it. But there's so much going into it
Right.
that you have to understand. For example, if there is a startup that you're really interested to invest in, one of the things that we recommend is like go ask people around you and ask, would you use this? And ask them to use the product and have
Also
them
with networking.
exactly and give them feedback. So there's so much going into it. What we're doing is actually helping founders to be more ready to be like pitching in front of investors because when you tell your story, there's so many things going into your story. It's the backbone of your story, meaning how legit your startup and business is. Do you have an actual product, or are you just telling a story about a you know,
Training.
imaginary product. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is your traction? It's very important. How are you going to get people to pay for your product? These are everything that has to go into your pitch. And when we see startups coming to our pitch preview sessions, we see so many of them are not even ready to, come in front of a crowd of people and pitch. So we help them in that regard, saying like, we can help you to better your pitch so investor would take you more seriously, like your story is stronger. So yeah, I think being prepared to how to tell your story with like legit data is the most important thing founders should learn.
That's very useful advice, Neda, especially for people just starting their journey or startup. Let's go a little deeper for a moment in quiet time when it's just you and your thoughts. When you're alone and thinking, what gives you hope and energy to keep building? Is this your goal, your job, or something else?
That's a great question. I love the question. I think one thing that I have learned is the destination or the product is not a destination. I've learned like it's literally about the journey, and I'm pretty sure people are like, oh, this is such a cliche. I've heard this so many times, but it is about the journey. And for me, the most exciting part of this journey is who I am becoming.
Right.
And it's not like, what am I building? Because one thing that you might fall into that trap as a founder is like, you identify yourself as your startup. Like there's nothing else in you, there's nothing else in who you are, and you identify yourself as a founder of this startup. And if this startup doesn't work out, you'll be devastated. You'll be like, oh my God, my life is over. But then after you realize this is not about the product, this is not about the company, it's about you. Maybe this one doesn't work, the next one will. Maybe next one doesn't work, the next one will. So for me, when I just really become an acceptance of this is not about this product, it's about my capabilities of being able to build products, get users, get investors, just learning how things work. I think that's what keeps me motivated to keep moving.
I love that. We all need something that gives us strength when things get quiet. Many of our audience are students or young people still finding their path. Some feel lost, confused, or like they don't belong. What message would you give to young women or men or anyone who feels unsure about their future?
That's a good one. Um, what I recommend is listen to the podcast of the people that you admire, read books from the people that you admire. I think these two have helped me so much. Read books as much as you can and start doing things. Like one of the other traps that you might fall into again is just like if you're listening to 10 podcasts a day and don't do anything, it's not going to help you. You have to act on whatever you're learning. So I would personally say if you think you are interested in startup world, go and get an internship in a startup and see how things work. See if this is something that you might be interested to do in the future. Because I think a lot of people like the idea of being a founder, but it's just so hard. And I don't recommend it to everyone. I feel like you have to understand who you are first. And then you'll be like, okay, I have strength in this field. And I think I can blossom if I do this. And that one thing might not be funding a startup, it might be helping a startup. But I think just learning who you are and what you want out of life would be the best first step.
Right. Thank you for saying that. I know a lot of people need to hear that. Let's make it simple now. Sometimes it's the small things that help us feel okay or good each day. So, what is one small daily habit that makes you feel happy and peaceful? Like something simple you do every day?
Um, my morning coffee is my favorite time, but I started doing something this year that I love it. And I know not everybody has access to, so I do cold plunge in the ocean twice a week. And I just go, get into the ocean for 5 minutes, look at the view of the ocean, and just come out. And that is such a great start for the day. So that's something that I highly recommend if you have access to, or you can just like do cold shower thing. But these two are really great.
Yeah, that's so grounding. I love when guests share these little things. We have talked about work and purpose so far. Now let's imagine a weekend. If you have a weekend, if you want to check, relax, if you could spend a weekend anywhere in the world, where would you go and why that place?
Can I like leave the town?
Yeah,
Okay. I mean, I love Hawaii, but like it's a short, like a weekend is not a good idea for going to Hawaii. I just go camping somewhere in California. I think just spending time in nature is the best like way for me to recharge. And just completely disconnect with the whole city life and the, high paced living. Just somewhere that you can decelerate, you can just like calm down, calm your nerve. I'd go camping anywhere in California. Yeah.
yeah. How often do you travel? Like out of the state or out of the country?
So little. I do camping, yeah, because it's just not yeah, it doesn't fit into my schedule at this point. I would love to travel so much more, hopefully soon, maybe next year. But I do camping a lot. So,
I traveled a lot when I was study abroad, like last year,
yeah,
to Singapore, and then I
nice.
traveled around Singapore, like 7 or 8 countries there was in Asia.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'd love to see
sounds perfect.
Asia.
Yes. At the end, something fun, just question. We always ask this one that's the end of each episode for our guest. What's something about you that people need to be surprised to know, like hidden talent, childhood dream, or a funny memory?
Um, I think a hidden talent, which is not that hidden. I like to sing. I
Like
don't do
Persian
it,
or English in
huh?
Persian?
Both Persian and English, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, both. I do it in front of very close friends, and I've been told that I have to do it more publicly, but I still call it a hidden talent.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that part of yourself, Neda. Thank
First,
you again so much, Neda. It was such a pleasure hearing your story, your perspective. I learned a lot, and I think our audience will enjoy and learn from it too. Thanks again for sharing your time and energy with us. To everyone listening, I hope this episode inspires and gives you something meaningful to think about. See you in the next episode and have a good day.
thank you.